Hello and welcome to English for You. I'm Seb.
I'm Nikki.
And we are on day 3 of our story article, The Boy on the Wooden Box. Yes. So this was a really emotional, very powerful story, wasn't it? Because we meet Leon Layson, don't we?
Yeah, and it's about Nazi invasion in Poland and his family, but eventually they got help.
Yes, exactly. They got sent to a concentration camp, didn't they? A very bad place where lots of Jewish people and other minorities.
They had to suffer and starved.
Exactly. They were sent there kind of like a prison, and it's about the help they get from an unlikely person. A Nazi called Oskar Schindler helps them by giving them extra food and basically allows them to survive this terrible place. So there's a lot behind this story, and that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. So stick around.
Reading. The Boy on the Wooden Box. Leon Layson wrote The Boy on the Wooden Box about his traumatic experience during the Holocaust. Out of 1,200 Jews, he was the youngest concentration camp survivor to be freed by Oskar Schindler. There are a number of important themes in The Boy on the Wooden Box. One of the most central is anti-Semitism, the hatred of Jewish people that defined Nazi Germany. By telling his story, Layson allows us to experience the cruel reality of Jewish life in Europe during this time. He was only 10 when Poland was invaded, and he struggled to understand why people like him were hated by the Nazis. Back then, helping Jewish people was no small matter. During World War II, the Nazi government made it known that anyone caught helping Polish Jews would receive the death sentence. But this didn't stop some from resisting their evil government. Schindler and many others risked everything to rescue those in need. They were the unexpected heroes of one of the darkest times in European history.
Okay, so our description article begins, Leon Layson wrote The Boy on the Wooden Box about his traumatic experience during the Holocaust.
Traumatic 是形容词，指的就是痛苦难忘的，有时候甚至是造成精神创伤的。通常呢，我们会用来形容一个事件，那它的名词是 trauma, an emotional pain that is caused by an upsetting experience. 那可能就会像是你童年的时候有什么阴影啊，曾经被狗追啊，或者是好像很多人因为被狗追或是溺过水，所以就留下了 trauma.
Exactly. So it's a traumatic experience. What is an experience? Well, an experience is just something that has happened to you. It could be literally anything. It could be your birthday. It could be what you had for dinner last week if you went to an expensive restaurant. That could be an experience. They're just any events that have happened in your life. So normally we use this word to talk about how that time might have made you feel, or when you want to describe what that event was like. So I could say, I went to a job interview last week and it was a terrible experience. I was there late. I didn't know the interviewer's name. I was sweating. I left my CV at home. I answered all the questions wrong. It was a terrible experience. If it was a great experience, maybe I got the job. Maybe I got offered 120,000 NT a month and I'm very rich now. It could be any of those things. So that is how we use experience. Let's look at an example sentence of experience now. Jack had a horrible experience flying from Toronto to Taipei. All the toilets on the plane were broken. Can you imagine that?
No.
Yeah, no, that's a nightmare.
Experience 是名词，指的就是经验，它可以是一个一次性的事件，或者是一段时间的经历。For example, I tried surfing once last summer. It was a great experience for me. 或者是我们去应征工作的时候呢，通常会讲一些自己的经历啊，像是可能已经教书教了好几年了，那我们就会说 He has experience in teaching. 那 experience 也可以当作动词，意思是去经历或者是去感受。If you experience something, you feel it, or something happened to you. And next, the article says, out of 1,200 Jews, he was the youngest concentration camp survivor to be freed by Oskar Schindler.
Okay, so we saw that he was the youngest concentration camp survivor to be freed by Oskar Schindler. We use this structure a lot in the news. That's because when we use a superlative adjective like best, youngest, and tallest, followed by a noun and then to, we are talking about the most notable person in a group to achieve something. The oldest runner to run a marathon, 马拉松, was 102 years old. No one older ever ran a marathon. Similarly, if 3 students in your class all win prizes, then the tallest of them would be the tallest to win that prize. They wouldn't have to be the tallest kid in your class, just the tallest one who was being rewarded. Let's look at another example. This one is from history. At 43 years old, John F. Kennedy was the youngest man to become president.
那这边呢，我们就用到了最高级的用法 the youngest person to do something. 这边的原句应该是 the youngest concentration camp survivor who was freed. 但是呢，因为这边的先行词 who 和前面的 survivor 讲的是同一个人，所以呢，我们就用一个不定词 to v 把它代换掉了。
Exactly. So there are a number of important themes in The Boy on the Wooden Box.
A number of 指的是一些许多的东西，但要注意它只能用来当可以用来可数名词。A number of reasons, a number of things. 那 theme 是名词，指的是一个主题，像是我们会说 The theme of a party is Game of Thrones。那通常在文学作品里面，很常会提到就是 theme 就是一个作品的主旨，还有另外一个字呢是 plot 情节，也就是这个文学作品里面会被提到的。plot 指的是一个比较像是一个故事的事件，那把这些 plot 全部都串起来的时候，就是会是一个作者想要表达的看法或是讯息，那这就是它的一个 theme。
So one of the most important themes is anti-Semitism. As the article says, one of the most central is anti-Semitism, the hatred of Jewish people that defined Nazi Germany. Okay, so we said one of the most central. Here we could actually say one of the most central ones. But sometimes when we're using an adjective to refer to modify something like one or to repeat a noun, we can actually just skip that noun and just use the adjective. We also saw a couple of slightly difficult words there. Anti-Semitism was one of them. Anti-Semitism is the idea that Jewish people are bad and we should get rid of Jewish people, or we should not let them do certain things. So this idea was a problem in Europe for a very long time, but one of the worst periods of time for anti-Semitism was in the 1930s and 1940s, when countries like Germany, but especially Germany, really, really hated Jewish people and were trying to do everything they could do to get rid of them. They were trying to kill all the Jewish people. Now, we can tell from this, from that word, kind of what hatred probably means, right? Hatred is a feeling of really, really disliking someone. It's even more than that. It's you want that person to be dead, or you want them to disappear. You never want to see them again. So hatred, there was a lot of hatred in Germany at this time. So what is happening in this book? Well, as the article says, by telling his story, Layson allows us to experience the cruel reality of Jewish life in Europe during this time. I imagine it must have been very difficult for them, right?
Yeah, it's like everyone is just against them.
Exactly. And it's difficult for us to imagine because, I'm not Jewish, for example, but also, even if I was, I wouldn't have experienced something so bad. And
Yeah,
it's important.
Can you imagine not doing anything but you just send into a prison?
Exactly. Like that is a strange idea. And so this book is very helpful in that way. Anyway, we saw 2 more vocab words there. Cruel is one of them. That's an adjective. And we use cruel to talk about being very mean or bad to someone. So the cruel reality of Jewish life then refers to the many difficulties that Jewish people had to experience at that time. They lost their businesses, homes, and were forced to live in terrible conditions. They were treated really cruelly. Let's look at an example sentence for cruel. The cruel queen had her servant punished for knocking over her drink.
That's weird.
That would be a very cruel thing to do, right? It's just knocking over a drink. Let's look at the... Oh, sorry, we need to talk a little bit more about cruel, don't we?
Cruel 是形容词，意思是残忍的或是残酷的，其实就是 kind 友善的相反。那 cruel 也可以用来形容一件事情，像是课文里面提到的这个故事，告诉我们残酷的事实。那除了 cruel 之外，我们还可以说 brutal 或者是 heartless， 都是用来形容一件很残忍的事情。那 cruel 的名词呢是 cruelty， 指的就是残忍的行为或者是虐待。
So we talked about the cruel reality. Now, reality is a noun and it's the stuff that exists. So that is really anything that is just there. It's the stuff that is true in real life. So reality here, we're talking about the reality of something. So that is what something is really like or what something was really like. That's what this story is about. The reality of being Jewish during World War II. What being Jewish in World War II was like. Here's another example, less real. The Harry Potter films are great fun to watch, but a lot of what happens in them really couldn't occur in reality. A slightly different word to reality is realistic. And basically that one means like real life. So something that's realistic isn't actually real. It's just like reality.
Reality 是名词，指的就是现实或是真实的状况。我们可能看电视会看到一些 reality TV shows， 指的就是真人实境秀，那就是那些剧情都不是安排好的，实际上是在记录那些人最真实的一面，就是把摄影机藏在角落，然后看他们平常生活的状况。例句说，电影《哈利波特》很好看，但是里面很多剧情在现实生活中并不会发生。For example, people in Harry Potter movies can kill people with a spell or even invisible. And these are not possible in reality. And the article continues, he was only 10 when Poland was invaded, and he struggled to understand why people like him were hated by the Nazis.
Yeah, it must be very difficult to be that young and have people hate you for just being yourself. And anyway, it was even more difficult for them. Back then, helping Jewish people was no small matter.
During World War II, the Nazi government made it known that anyone caught helping Polish Jews would receive the death sentence. 这边的 make something known 指的就是使得某一件事情让大家都知道，也就是说发表或者是公布的意思。所以在这边呢，指的就是政府有告诉大家说，帮助犹太人就会遭受到死刑。所以帮助犹太人在那时候并不是一件容易的事情。
But this didn't stop some from resisting their evil government. Yes, we saw the word resist there. When you resist something, you fight against it or try to stop it from happening. Right now, people around the world are resisting COVID-19. They are finding ways to fight against the virus and stop it from spreading. Similarly, if you get sick, your body resists the disease and tries to get rid of it and get it out your body. So we can call this a form of resistance, which is the noun form of the word. So let's look at an example sentence. When the school introduced a rule about wearing school uniform, many students resisted and wore their home clothes to class anyway.
Resist 是动词，指的就是抵挡或者是对抗某件事情。在课文这里指的就是，即便政府有发表这样的政策，说大家只要帮犹太人就是死路一条，但是还是没有阻挡一些人来抵抗这个邪恶的政府。Sometimes we can say that I can't resist chocolate ice cream. 意思就是我没有办法抵挡巧克力冰淇淋的诱惑，是真的，我只要看到一定要吃，就算没看到我也要吃。And the article says, Schindler and many others risked everything to rescue those in need.
Okay, so people who helped Jewish people during the Holocaust were risking a lot. Risk is our next word, and when we risk something happening, we create a situation where something good or bad could happen. If you spend your money on lottery tickets, then you're risking losing all of your money. Now, we can use risk as a verb, or we can use it as a noun. Typically, when we use it as a noun, we talk about taking risks. That, again, means risk. Or we could talk about assessing a risk. And that is where, before taking a risk, we work out how big of a risk it is, how likely something good or bad is going to happen. Now, people who like risks often like betting money, 赌钱. And when you bet money, you put money down on a risk, or you put money down on a race or a competition, and you get more money if the thing that you say will happen. So an example of that is John bet $500 NT that his horse would win the race. We've also got an example sentence for risk. James risked getting into trouble when he showed up 10 minutes late for class.
Risk 当动词的时候的意思是冒着一个怎么样的风险。For example, the man risked losing his marriage when he decided to cheat on his wife. 那 risk 也可以当作名词，指的就是风险或者是危险 the possibility of something bad happening. For example, there's always an element of risk in flying an airplane.
Now, when we're talking about risks, we also want to talk about rescuing. That's the other important word we need to look at today. Rescue is a verb, and when we rescue someone, we save them from something bad. When the US Army beat Germany in World War II, it rescued the people who were imprisoned in the camps. We could also say that they liberated them. When you liberate someone, you make them free. You give them freedom. Yes. Liberate actually comes from, it has the same meaning as freedom. They come from the same original word. Okay, let's look at an example sentence for rescue now. The fireman rescued the baby from the burning building and returned it to its frightened mother.
Rescue 是动词，指的就是拯救或者是解救。那在课文这边说的是，后来在二战，美国因为赢了，所以就拯救了这些被囚禁的犹太人。我们在新闻上可能会看到，因为天气不好啊，有人爬山发生山难，那我们就会派遣 rescue team 去拯救、去搜救，那指的就是救难队。那如果我们今天说有一个 meeting 很无聊，那希望有人可以，就是我希望可以离开这里，那我可能就打电话给 Seb 说Seb, can you come to my rescue? Can you come rescue me from this boring meeting? 意思就是可不可以来，就是把我从这里带走。那还有另一个字是 in need， 指的就是有需要的人，像是我们在捷运上呢看到博爱座的标语，就是说我们要把座位让给那些有需要的人，我们就会听到 Please give your seat to those in need.
So the article goes on, they were the unexpected heroes of one of the darkest times in European history. Okay, so dark times there. When we're talking about dark times, we're talking about a very difficult or bad period. So World War II was a very dark time because lots of people died and there was a lot of fighting. It was a very unstable, bad time. That is where we're actually going to leave the article. So it was a very interesting story to look into. I personally didn't know that there were a lot of people in Germany who helped, or a lot of people in the German territories who were helping Jewish people or helping people who were in the concentration camps get out. It certainly wasn't everybody, but there were some unsung heroes. Let's go to our For You chat question now, and we'll talk a little bit more about World War II.
For You chat.
Okay, so we've got a big question for our For You chat. What do you know about World War II? Share with the class. Well, I'm sure we can talk about a lot of things to do with World War II.
Yeah, I have this movie I want to recommend. It's called Jojo Rabbit. It's also about World War II, but it's about this little boy who is crazy about Hitler. But then, but it's weird. But then his mother actually was secretly helping Jewish people. So it's kind of like he was kind of struggling and he didn't know what to do because on this one hand he's fan of Hitler, but the other hand his mother is helping those people.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of good different movies about World War II told from different perspectives. So maybe when you guys are asking this question to each other, you can also see if you can name any World War II movies and what is special about the story that those movies tell. So we'll let you guys discuss that and we'll join you again soon for more exciting articles. For English for You, I'm Seb.
I'm Nikki.
And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Experience. Jack's trip to Japan was a pleasant experience, filled with lots of good food and shopping. Cruel. Alex had an unhappy childhood because his parents were cruel and often hit him. Reality. Thanks to my family's help, I can turn my dream of opening my own coffee shop into a reality. Resist. Ryan resisted going to the dentist until his parents made him go. Risk. The brave woman risked her life to save the little boy from the angry bear. Rescue. The brave man rescued several people from the burning building.
字汇小补帖
Traumatic. Theme. Anti-Semitism. Hatred.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net